I thought I'd landed the easiest temp job in my life. Quiet office, good pay, barely any oversight. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized I wasn't replacing anyone. I was becoming them. When I got the offer, it didn't even feel real. I'd been unemployed for almost 6 months after getting laid off from my last job, a warehouse gig that went under overnight. So when I saw the posting for a temporary administrative contractor at a local logistics firm, I jumped on it. The recruiter's email was short, almost lazy. "Hi, Jake. You seem like a good fit. It's low-stress work. $27 charter 3-month contract to start. You'd begin next Monday. That was it. No interview, no call. Just a start date and an address." The office was located in one of those endless business parks on the outskirts of the city. Rows of concrete buildings with tinted windows, all looking like they were cloned from the same template. Inside, it was colder than I expected. Not temperature-wise, just atmosphere. The walls were pale gray. No posters, no logos, no nameplates on the doors. Even the people seemed muted, polite, quiet, efficient. When I walked in on my first day, a woman at the front desk handed me a badge with Temp 017 printed on it and said, "You'll be in room 312. Everything you need is already set up." I asked her who my supervisor was. She said, "You'll meet him later," without looking up from her monitor. Room 312 was just a small office. Desk, computer, filing cabinet. No windows. There was a folder on the desk labeled Daily Tasks, and inside were step-by-step instructions written in bullet points. Check shared inbox data reconciliation. Verify timestamps against manifest spreadsheets. Flag discrepancies and log them in report sheet 3B. Upload at 6 p.m. sharp. That was it. I started working. The system login was already active. The spreadsheets were full of numbers and shipping IDs I didn't understand, but the process was mindless. The kind of work that feels safe, repetitive, mechanical, soothing in a way. At 5:58 p.m., the computer made a soft ping sound. A pop-up appeared. Upload complete. Do not close until confirmation. After about 30 seconds, another message appeared. Acknowledged. Continue tomorrow. That was my first day. The weird part started on my third. When I got to my desk, there was a paper note taped to the monitor. If asked, say you started last week. It wasn't signed. I laughed, assuming it was a joke from whoever used to sit here. But when I went to grab coffee in the break room, I noticed something. People looked at me like I'd been there a while. A guy from the next office, Mark, I think, nodded and said, "Morning, Jake," like we were old coworkers. Then he asked, "How's your side of the floor after the update? Still freezing up?" I didn't know what he meant, so I just said, "Yeah, a bit." He nodded again. They said they fixed it last week. That evening, while closing up, I checked the shared drive for the other temp folders. There were dozens. Temp 001 through Temp 035, all with identical file structures. But most of them hadn't been touched in weeks. Some in months. When I clicked on Temp 016, the one before me, the access was restricted. The message said, "Access revoked. Status, replaced." For some reason, that word, replaced, got stuck in my head. The next morning, the receptionist called me by name before I said anything. "Morning, Jake. Mr. Barrett will see you at 10. I froze. I'd never met anyone named Barrett. At 9:55, I walked to the end of the hall toward the frosted glass door marked Operations Management. Inside, a tall man with thinning blonde hair was sitting behind a spotless desk, flipping through a stack of printed reports. He didn't look up when I entered. "Jake, right?" His voice was calm, unhurried, the kind that makes you straighten your posture without realizing it. "Yes, sir," I said, even though I didn't remember ever being introduced. He smiled faintly. "I'm Barrett. I oversee the contractor wing." "Sit down." His office was huge but empty. No family photos, no personal touches, just a wall clock ticking way too loudly, and a small black speaker in the corner that emitted a soft static hum. Barrett slid a folder across the desk. Inside were a few sheets filled with what looked like data summaries. Totals, timestamps, error counts. "Looks like you're settling in well," he said. "Accuracy is important here. We don't like rework." I nodded, though I had no idea what the numbers meant. Then he said something strange. "You picked up the workflow faster this time." "This time?" I asked. He looked up then, meeting my eyes for the first time. It wasn't hostile, just too steady. Too aware. Most temps need longer to adjust, he said. But you seem comfortable already. That's good. He stood, smoothed his tie, and added, We'll keep you on the 3rd floor for now. Try not to wander around, all right? The restricted wings are for full-timers only. When I went back to my office, my access badge suddenly beeped red at the stairwell. It had worked yesterday. Now it didn't. I had to take the long route through the main corridor. That's when I noticed something new. Every door on the 4th floor had a black strip of tape across the handle, like they'd been sealed. No names, no sounds. Just that soft electric hum from behind the walls. At lunch, I sat in the break room scrolling through my phone, pretending not to notice that no one else was eating. Everyone sat at their tables with laptops open, typing silently, not talking. The vending machine buzzed behind me, and I jumped when someone suddenly spoke. You replaced Claire, didn't you? I turned. It was a woman I hadn't seen before, maybe mid-30s, short dark hair, wearing the same gray ID badge as everyone else. Sorry, I said. She lowered her voice. Before you. Temp 016, Claire. She sat where you sit now. I hesitated. Do you know where she went? The woman looked at me for a long time, then said quietly, She left one night after closing. Didn't come back. I waited for her to elaborate, but she just stood and left her half-eaten sandwich on the table. That night I stayed late. I told myself I was just trying to finish my reports early, but really I wanted to look. When the clock hit 7:30, the building was almost empty. The only sound was the air system cycling through the vents. I opened the shared drive again. Temp 016 was still locked. But now, a new folder had appeared. Temp 018, pending activation. There were no files inside. Just a text document named notes.txt. It contained one line. They'll call it data reconciliation. It isn't. The next morning, my folder had changed. Under daily tasks, there was a new bullet point at the bottom. Do not communicate with other temps during active shifts. When I got to my desk, my monitor flickered for a moment, like a webcam trying to focus. Then a chat window popped up on my screen. Internal messenger, unmarked sender. Unknown. Did she talk to you about Claire? I froze. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Me, who is this? Unknown, don't reply. Delete this. The window closed itself. And right then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. We monitor external devices during work hours. Please comply with protocol. I looked up, half expecting someone to be standing at my door. But the hallway was empty. The hum in the walls sounded louder than before. At 5:59 p.m., my screen pinged as usual. Upload complete. Do not close until confirmation. Only this time, the message stayed on the screen for longer than usual. Then, a faint reflection appeared. My webcam light flicked on for a split second. Acknowledged. Report received. A new line appeared beneath it. Next cycle. Evaluation. That night, I dreamt I was sitting at my desk, typing numbers I couldn't read. Someone was standing behind me. When I turned, it was Claire. She was smiling, but her mouth didn't move when she spoke. Stop uploading. When I came in the next morning, my badge didn't just beep red, it buzzed. A high, shrill tone that made the security guard at the front desk look up from his monitor. Name, he asked. Jake Harper, I said, holding up the badge. Temp 017. I've been here 2 weeks. He typed something into his computer, frowned, and then said, There's no record under that number. I stared at him. What? Check again. I was here yesterday. He turned the monitor slightly toward me. There was a list of active contractors. Temp 08 was at the bottom, pending activation, just like before. But there was no Temp 017. Before I could say anything, he got a call on his headset, listened for a few seconds, then nodded and handed my badge back. Mr. Barrett says you can go up, he said flatly. I didn't even try to hide my shaking hands when I reached my office. The computer was already on, a new document open on the screen. Evaluation form. Temporary contractor 0017. Please describe the last 7 days of work. Include any deviations or irregularities. The cursor blinked, waiting for input. I typed no deviations. Tasks completed as instructed. Then hesitated. My reflection flickered faintly in the black edges of the monitor. I erased the line and replaced it with, not sure what I'm evaluating? There's no oversight. No team, no visible project. I pressed enter. The screen went blank for a second, then text appeared, not typed by me. That's correct. Continue. I pushed back from the desk. The cursor was moving on its own, line by line, like someone was typing remotely. You're adjusting well. Faster than the others. That's promising. I whispered, "Who is this?" Mr. Barrett appreciates consistency. Keep your focus. Do not let outside interference compromise results. Then it stopped. The document autosaved. The window closed. And my webcam light turned on for exactly 3 seconds before shutting off again. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone, went outside, and called the recruiter who had hired me. The number rang once and went to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. When I searched the number online, nothing came up. Not even a local area code match. After lunch, I went looking for the woman who had mentioned Claire. Her desk was empty. Not just empty, I'm cleared out. I asked Mark if he'd seen her. He gave me a blank look. Who? Short dark hair. Sits by the break room. We talked 2 days ago. He frowned. No one's been at that desk for months? I felt the same cold crawl up my spine that I'd felt in Barrett's office. Something was wrong with memory in this building. Or maybe with the people. At 4:00 p.m., an email popped into my inbox with no subject line. The sender field was just admin internal. It contained one sentence. Please report to level B after your upload. I didn't even know there was a level B. That evening, I followed the concrete stairs down past the ground floor. There was a small sign taped to the wall that said, "Authorized staff only in faded ink." The door at the bottom required my badge, which somehow worked again. Inside, the air smelled like cleaning chemicals and metal. Rows of filing cabinets stretched down the hall, each drawer labeled with a contractor number, Temp 001, Temp 02, all the way up to Temp 0116. Every drawer was locked except the one labeled Temp 0116. I pulled it open. Inside were personal items, a wallet, an ID, a phone, a keychain. On top of everything was a printed evaluation form, the same one that had appeared on my screen that morning. It was filled out in neat handwriting. I can't remember what I was doing before this. Sometimes I see myself on the screen. They told me that's normal. At the bottom, a signature, Claire M. I nearly dropped it. My pulse was hammering so hard I couldn't hear anything else. Then behind me, a voice said, "Jake." I turned. Barrett stood in the doorway, perfectly calm. "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked. "I don't know what this place is," I said. Why do you have people's things down here?" He stepped forward slowly. "You're part of an evaluation process. Data reconciliation is secondary. What matters is behavioral adaptation." "What does that mean?" I asked. Barrett smiled almost kindly. "You follow instructions. You don't question. You repeat tasks without error. The others couldn't." He gestured toward the cabinet. "They lost cohesion." I took a step back. "I'm leaving." Barrett tilted his head slightly. "We've already logged your intent. Please finish your cycle first." I bolted past him and ran up the stairs. When I reached the lobby, the doors were locked. Not just locked, sealed, like welded from the inside. I spent the next hour trying every exit, even the emergency ones. Every single one was unresponsive to my badge. By 9 p.m., my phone had no signal. My reflection in the glass doors looked wrong, slightly delayed, like a video feed with a lag. And then my desk phone rang. I picked it up without thinking. A voice said, "You haven't uploaded today's report?" I hung up. The line went dead. The monitor on my desk flickered on by itself. "Upload complete. Do not close until confirmation." The next thing I remember clearly is the smell of burnt coffee. That stale, bitter stench you get from the bottom of a pot that's been sitting on the warmer too long. I was sitting at my desk. The computer screen was on. The clock said 8:12 a.m. I don't remember how I got there. I don't remember driving. I don't even remember leaving the building the night before. My shirt was the same one I'd worn yesterday, but the timestamp on the system login said I'd been active since 02:16 a.m. For a while, I just stared at it, trying to breathe normally. Then I noticed something else. The papers on my desk weren't mine. Different handwriting, different format. The top one said, Temp 0117 Evaluation, Cycle 2. Observation, Increased Self-Awareness. Requires containment. My name was nowhere on it. Underneath were notes typed in short, clinical bursts. Displays agitation when confronted with inconsistencies. Attempts to verify system boundaries. Memory resets inconsistent with intended pattern. I flipped to the last page. It said simply, Recommend reallocation or merge with replacement unit. I felt dizzy. When I stood up, my legs barely worked. I stumbled down the hall toward Barrett's office, but when I reached the door, his nameplate was gone. The glass panel was dark. Inside, empty. I checked the reception desk. The woman who always sat there wasn't there either. No one was. It was like the whole building had exhaled and emptied itself overnight. Except for the sound. That low electric hum, louder now, coming from somewhere below. I went back down to level B. The lights were flickering. Some were out entirely. The metal cabinets were still there, but new ones had been added. Their labels weren't numbers anymore. They were dates. 10/01/2023, 10/15/2023, 10/16/2023, 10/29/2023. E. Found one with 10/30/2023, present written on it. Inside were printed screenshots of me, sitting at my desk, standing in the hallway, sleeping in the chair. Every shot was time-stamped between 2 and 5 a.m. At the bottom was a report. Subject: Harper. J-cycle stabilization achieved at 0231. Cognitive feedback loop within acceptable variance. Continue observation. I backed away so fast I tripped over the open drawer. The light above me buzzed and went out. And in the dark, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing from deeper in the hallway. Jake, that voice again. Barrett's calm, too close. I turned toward it, but he wasn't there. Just that humming, vibrating sound filling every wall, every vent. Then a second voice, quieter, female, strained. Don't talk to him. It came from one of the cabinets. I crouched and pulled it open. Inside wasn't a cabinet at all. It was hollow, a narrow tunnel with a soft light flickering at the end. And in the middle of it, someone was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. Claire, I said without knowing how I knew. She looked up, her face pale and exhausted. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. You'll make it worse. What is this place? She shook her head like she couldn't quite form the words. They build us out of patterns, she said. They take what's left and rewrite it until it fits. Rewrite what? She smiled, small, sad, broken. Your reports. The uploads. You're not sending data, Jake. You're sending yourself. I don't remember leaving the basement. All I know is that I was suddenly back at my desk again, the computer screen glowing. It said, upload complete, evaluation successful, prepare for next cycle. The hum in the walls deepened, pulsing like a heartbeat. I touched the monitor. It was warm, and for a fraction of a second, the reflection in the screen wasn't mine. It was Barrett's. When I blinked, the office around me looked different. My nameplate now read J. Barrett, Operations Management. The badge on my chest no longer said Temp 017. It said Supervisor. And on the desk across from me sat a nervous-looking young man scrolling through an email on his first day. His badge said Temp 08. The day started like every other. The clock blinking 8 a.m., the hum already in the air, and a new contractor being shown to a cubicle down the hall. Except now everyone looked at me for direction. Morning, Mr. Barrett, someone said as they passed. The name hit wrong in my ears. I didn't correct them. I tried to act natural, approve a few reports, check the shared inbox, but every file I opened looked disturbingly familiar. Whole paragraphs of text that I knew I had written, but under different names. Claire's phrasing, my phrasing, even Mark's old typos, all stitched together like recycled thoughts. It felt like reading my own diary rewritten by someone else. Around noon, I walked past the new Temp's desk. He was maybe 25, nervous, hunched over his monitor. His folder read, Temp 018, Daily Tasks. He flinched when he noticed me watching. Sir, is everything all right? I wanted to tell him to run, to get out before the loop closed around him. Instead, I heard myself saying calmly, You're adjusting quickly. That's good. It wasn't me speaking. It was the line Barrett had used on me. And when the temp smiled in relief, my stomach turned. Later, I opened the admin dashboard, the one I'd never had access to before. There were dozens of profiles, Temp 01 through Temp 017, all marked inactive. Each entry had a field labeled Merge Status. Mine said Complete. Claire's said Failed. At the bottom, a new entry blinked. Temp 018, Merge Pending. I scrolled further and found an unlabeled folder containing raw evaluation logs. When I clicked one, the speakers crackled to life. Recordings of my own voice reading system prompts, asking scripted questions, approving adaptation progress. I wasn't just a subject anymore. I was part of the system keeping it running. By 5 p.m., my reflection in the darkened screen was shaking. "I'm still me," I whispered. The reflection's lips didn't move. I went back to level B, determined to end it, to smash every cabinet, burn the drives, whatever it took. But the hallway was gone. In its place stood a long glass wall looking into an observation room. Rows of monitors lined the far side, each showing a feed of some office identical to mine. In one of them, Temp 018 sat at his desk typing, unaware of the camera above him. On another screen, I was there too, only I wasn't moving. Just staring straight ahead, frozen, like a paused video frame. Then one monitor flickered and showed Claire. She was older now, eyes sunken, whispering something I couldn't hear. The speakers clicked on. "He'll understand soon." "They all do." I slammed my hand against the glass. "Tell me how to stop this." She looked right at me. "You don't. You hand it off." When I returned upstairs, Temp 08 was gone. His monitor was dark except for a single line, "Upload complete. Do not close until confirmation." And below it, in smaller text, "Supervisor acknowledgement required." My hand moved before I could think. I clicked confirm. The lights flickered. Somewhere below, the hum deepened into a low, living roar. That night, I wrote my first evaluation report. Subject exhibits stable integration. No memory anomalies detected. Recommend continuation. When I hit send, the message duplicated itself across every screen. Dozens of windows, hundreds of lines, each repeating my words in perfect unison. Then, in bold at the bottom, cycle reset initiated. The next morning, I woke to an email in my inbox. "Welcome, Jake. Your assignment begins Monday. Room 312 has been prepared." I stared at it for a long time before realizing it was addressed to me. From me. When I came to, the hum was already inside my head. Steady, rhythmic, like breathing that wasn't mine. My desk looked the same, but the monitor was blank except for a single cursor blinking in the center. Every few seconds it flashed a word. Input. I typed, "Where am I?" The reply came instantly. Cycle integrity check, nominal. Continue observation. The building was empty again. No voices, no footsteps, only the fluorescent buzz from the ceiling panels. Every door I tried led to the same hallway looping back to my office. After the fourth pass, I realized the clock on the wall reset to 8 a.m. each time I rounded the corner. I unplugged the computer. The monitor stayed on. Disconnection detected. Reintegration required. The reflection on the screen started to shift. My face, but slightly older, the skin around the eyes grayer, jaw tighter. It smiled first. "You were supposed to stop at the report," it said. "You kept digging. Now we don't know which version you are." I pressed my hands to the glass, trying to feel something real. The hum grew until it was all I could hear. I ran. Through the hall, down the stairs, anywhere that felt like movement. But every door opened into another office. Same desk, same chair, same faint smell of burnt coffee. Sometimes a version of me was already there, typing quietly. Sometimes the chair was empty but still spinning. I found a break room and ripped the vending machine plug from the wall. Behind it, a small panel blinked, a label reading Record Node 312. Dozens of cables fed into it, thin wires that disappeared behind the drywall like veins. I pulled them all. Sparks snapped, the hum faltered. For 1 second, silence. Then the intercom crackled to life. "Containment breach in Observation Wing B, subject loop unstable." The lights dimmed to red. I stumbled back to my desk. It was the only place that felt anchored. The monitor was still glowing, text flooding down the screen too fast to read. Then everything froze on one line. Supervisor override, accepted. A camera somewhere whirred. The speakers whispered, dozens of voices layered together. Claire, Barrett, my own. Report complete. Pattern stabilized. "Merge confirmed," I shouted. "I'm not you." But the reflection in the screen didn't answer. It was already typing. Jake Harper, integration ratio 100%. Welcome to operations management. Hours or minutes later, I woke to sunlight bleeding through the blinds. The building hummed softly again, calm, orderly. Someone knocked on the door. A young guy stepped in, nervous smile, fresh badge on his chest, Temp 019. Mr. Barrett?" I was told to report to room 312. My throat went dry. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He waited. I forced a smile, the kind I'd seen Barrett give me once. "Of course," I said. "Everything you need is already set up." He nodded, relieved, and left. I sat down, opened the evaluation log, and began to type. My hands didn't hesitate this time. Subject 019 adapting well. Accuracy improving. No deviations expected. The cursor blinked at the bottom of the page, waiting for my signature. I hesitated, then signed J. Barrett. The hum steadied, deep and even, like a heartbeat finally syncing with my own. For a moment, I felt almost peaceful. Then a faint pop sounded behind me, the ping of a new message on another monitor. I turned. On the screen was a blank document with one line waiting to be filled. Evaluation form, temporary contractor 020. And below it, a single instruction. If asked, say you started last week.